Bonjour et bienvenue à day 2 of notre petit défi, our little challenge. Introduce yourself confidently in French. Yesterday we got you to share 5 things about yourself, and in today's training, day 2 of the same training, we're going to keep moving forward beyond this first big step, because as you've noticed, you probably have real conversations with people that don't just stop after you've shared a fact about yourself. So today we're going to be focusing on questions and asking questions that will help keep the conversation flow. So we're kind of flipping things around, and we're going to take your simple introductory sentences. You can use the one I shared if you want, and turn them into natural questions that you could ask someone. This is how conversations often begin. You say something and you ask a little something. And suddenly it's not just listing facts about yourself, it's a real exchange. So we'll go through 4 types of questions that you can ask, even if you've never had a French conversation before. Asking questions has a little bit of grammar involved in it, but to keep things going in our 3-day challenge, if you've never learned how to put questions together, I'll share an extra video or 2 from my YouTube channel that can help you. Otherwise, here are lots of examples to get you started. We'll look at short conversational questions so that you can start right away and use these. We'll look at closed questions, sometimes called yes-no questions, WH questions, which is sometimes known as open questions, and leaning in questions, which is a term I completely made up. Firstly, short conversational questions. Imagine you've given your name, je m'appelle something. We're trying to think of short things that are going to be like little add-ons to keep the conversation flowing. Just by saying and you, either in a formal way or in an informal way, you're already passing the microphone to the other person. Et vous? Et toi? If you've said where you're from, je viens de, fill in the blank, you can ask them, et vous? Vous venez d'ici? And you? Do you come from here? Or, et vous? Vous venez d'où? And you? Where do you come from? Then let them answer. And you might then ask them a further question. Is it pretty? Is it nice? C'est joli. C'est joli. So use these short little questions to keep the flow going. If they say something, you might want to know with who, avec qui, or ask where something is. C'est où? Where is it? Or where is that? Où ça? It's like, where exactly? Or just where? Where's that? Where exactly? C'est quand? When is it? Or quand ça? When? When exactly? You can see that you don't need to remember a lot just to get going with these conversations. Numéro 2, second part is for closed questions. These ones are always answered with a yes or no, or the idea of yes or the idea of no. You might not hear oui every time, non every time, but the answer is going to be a closed option. So you say, I have 2 adult children. J'ai 2 fils adultes. J'ai 2 fils adultes. And then you're asking them a little bit about that same topic. Do you have children? Vous avez des enfants? Do you have a big family? Vous avez une grande famille? And there's multiple options you can come up with. Just to keep it simple, you share something about your family and then you ask them. If you say j'habite seul avec mon petit chien Rex, these are all from day one training. I live alone with my little dog Rex. You could then ask them, et vous, vous avez un chien? What about you? Do you have a dog? Or vous aussi, vous habitez seul? Do you also live alone? Vous aussi, vous habitez seul? These yes/no questions, they're great for checking information, confirming what someone said, and inviting connection. You shared a fact, and in a nice, straightforward way, you've asked them about that topic for their life, and you're showing curiosity. Number three are our WH questions. They're information questions. They're open, and we cannot answer them with yes or no. In English, they're WH questions. So, où est-ce que, quand est-ce que, qui est-ce que, qu'est-ce que, pourquoi est-ce que. A few more. Combien est-ce que, and comment est-ce que. So all of them will start with these little question words, où, quand, pourquoi, comment, combien, qui, que, etc. And it will open up big topics of conversation. There are a few ways to ask questions that I touched upon, and I have a specific training on est-ce que, ways to ask, just to get you started. I like to just provide at least one rather than spend our time together going through all the options. So you can try and get some information with some of these useful questions that you can just steal right away. Where do you live? Où est-ce que vous habitez? What do you like to do at the weekend? Qu'est-ce que vous aimez faire le week-end? When are you taking the plane? When are you getting on the plane? It's kind of when are you heading home? When are you getting on the plane? Quand est-ce que vous prenez l'avion? Why do you like this town or this city? Pourquoi est-ce que vous aimez cette ville? How are you finding France? Comment est-ce que vous trouvez la France? How are you finding? Trouver is find, but it's also how do you find it? What do you think of it? What do you think about it? What's your opinion of it? We're asking here. So those are quite useful sentences. They allow you to open up for some longer, more in-depth responses. So be ready to listen and not just give your next bit of information, because usually they'll share a little bit more with WH questions, which then will give you a reason to kind of bounce back on something that they've said. If you don't understand every word, don't panic. You're just trying to catch the key ideas, which leads us nice way to questions number 4. But before that, I'm going to run through one example. So let's look at Claire's example. J'aime bien cuisiner, mais je n'aime pas faire la vaisselle. I love to cook. I quite like to cook. J'aime bien. Bit less strong than I love. I quite like cooking, but I don't like doing the dishes. From that, you might ask another WH question. So you're just layering an extra one on top. What do you like cooking? Qu'est-ce que vous aimez cuisiner? They might ask you, because you said you like cooking, but maybe you're asking them. Who do you cook with usually? Avec qui est-ce que vous cuisinez d'habitude? Avec qui est-ce que vous cuisinez d'habitude? Or they might ask you, why don't you like the dishes? Pourquoi est-ce que vous n'aimez pas la vaisselle? And I apologize. This should be, pourquoi est-ce que vous n'aimez pas faire la vaisselle? Why don't you like doing the dishes? It's rare that people just don't like crockery, la vaisselle, doing the dishes, faire la vaisselle. These are questions that will open the door to you, to the conversation. They are going to show some real interest. So yeah, focus on the general idea for these. And if you're just starting, you just stick to that first one. You don't need to then add another one on top. But I want to talk to you about leaning in questions for part 4. And we're going to focus on these questions that are quite responsive, show your curiosity, but we'll stick with the present tense only to show you that you can do it at your beginner level. They're a bit more advanced, not because they're difficult, but because they show the person you're speaking to that you're engaged and that you're understanding what they're saying, that you're really actively listening. They're the kind of questions that create a lot of connection because you're asking further information of them. So the idea of leaning in is that. Let's take this example. Je parle un peu français. Let's say they said that rather than you said that. From that idea, you can then spontaneously come up with one of these WH questions or a short question or a yes, no. But it's just about choosing something that you have understood and asking for some clarification. For example, where do you learn French? Where are you learning French? It'll be the same. Where do you learn French or where are you learning French is still the present. Où est-ce que vous apprenez le français? How are you learning French? Comment est-ce que vous apprenez le français? Do you use a book or an app in order to learn French? Est-ce que vous utilisez un livre ou une appli pour apprendre le français? Who do you practice with? Avec qui est-ce que vous pratiquez? Avec qui est-ce que vous pratiquez? Let's look at another example. J'aime bien cuisiner. With that, you might ask, qu'est-ce que vous cuisinez souvent? What do you often cook? Est-ce que vous cuisinez tous les jours? Do you cook every day? Vous cuisinez pour vous seul? Do you cook just for yourself? These questions really help you sound warm and genuinely curious because you're reusing what they shared and you're building on from there. And we still just used the present tense for that. So now it's your turn. Here's your challenge for day 2. You are going to take your day 1 introductory sentences and look at each sentence. Try turning them into at least one part of your introduction into a question that you could genuinely ask someone. Aim for 4 questions today. 1 as a short follow-up, 1 a yes-no question, 1 WH question, and then a leaning in question, but you can't really prepare for that. So I advise you to think of what would one person say as a result of your WH question, and based on that, your 4th one will be your leaning in question. You can write these out, you can practice them out loud. They don't have to be perfect. Just play with the words, the flow of the sentences or flow of the questions and see what happens. Remember that a single question can open the door to a real conversation. So enjoy going through this and have a look at the printable, which has day 2 prompts that I've used, but also some extra ones in there too. Au revoir. See you tomorrow. À demain.